Good evening, everyone. Welcome again to our monthly talk. Tonight we have a guest speaker who's also part of the house. So I would say he's not anymore like a guest speaker, but a brother from the house. I will start tonight's meeting with the reading from Living Spring from Chico Xavier, message 122. Let us understand one another. I just gotta do something here. Do not disturb. Okay. Um, Let us understand one another. But above all, ardently love one another. Peter 1 Peter 4:8. There are no bigger or smaller endeavors. All of them are important. One person is respected due to the law he or she passes. Another is admired because of his or her deeds. But neither the legislator nor the hero could stand out if not for the humble labor of the farmer who sows the field, or without the anonymous effort of the whip sweeper who cleans the public streets. Therefore, do not isolate yourself in the pride with which you think you are better than everyone else. The community is a team that serves, creating the wealth of experience. And we must not forget that the harmony of that living mechanism depends on us. When we are able to spread the stimulus of our understanding and collaboration to all, respecting the importance of our own endeavor, the excellence of other people's as well, the earth will be renewed on its road to perfect happiness. But for that but for that happen, we must reciprocally devote ourselves to one another with ardent fraternal love. Let us love our position in the social order, no matter how humble or rudimentary it may be, lending our best efforts to the good, to the progress, and to education. We will be understood according to our understanding. Let us see our neighbor embodied in his or her effort, and our neighbor will see us embodied in our endeavors. Let us reach out to those around us, and they will respond with the best they have. The most precious capital of life is that of goodwill. Let us use goodwill, and our life will be enriched with blessings and joys, today and always, wherever we may be. I guess this message is pretty good for, with the tonight's topic, you matter. Um, okay, we're going to do our opening prayer. At this moment, we ask that we can all join together with our thoughts, elevating our thoughts to our Creator, our Father, who gave us all the tools we need for this existence. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity of a new life. Thank you for the opportunity of getting to know Spiritism, but most important, to study Spiritism. Tonight, we ask your blessing for all of the people who are here, incarnate and discarnate, and for all of those friends who will join at a later time. We also ask, inspire our friend Brian so he can share his message with all of us. Thank you, and so be it. All right, my friends. So tonight we have Brian Vosberg. Okay. And his topic is going to be You Matter. Do you want me to add already the presentation or you can? Okay. All right. So I think that looks okay. So if you need to change the size, you just, you can change it here. And then you just use the arrow to go, back and forth.
All right. Hello, welcome everyone. Thank you for letting me come here today to be a part of the center in the monthly lecture series. It's been a little while since I've been here, but it's always fun. It's always fun to get up here and speak and talk and everything else and bring the message of the doctrine and how it relates to me out to you. That's why we have these lectures. That's why we separate. We don't have one person giving the lectures. We take turns. We share. We all have different points of view. We all have different thoughts and perceptions. And sometimes we have that aha moment when we listen to someone else give a lecture and find out that blessing of hearing something from a different point of view that came to a different point of view, and you're like, I never thought of it that way before. And reading through the doctrine the first time, it's amazing how many of those moments I had, which made me want to stay with it, read up, keep reading to this day, all the wonderful books and stuff and the readings, and try to internalize that came up to us to make us better. So I'm going to start with, when you read the books of the doctrine, and I'm actually going to expand this beyond the doctrine. When you look at books of the Bible, self-help books, do it yourself, there's a focus to all of this. The Bible, all the Spirit's book, the focus is you. Who we always try to reach out to the audience, and the audience is you. Even when you see an author write a book like Lord of the Rings, is that benefit for the author? No. He's writing it for the benefit of the reader. And who's that reader? You. So start thinking about this. Let's start going big and thinking about this. Reading through Spirit's book, Gospel, Medium's book, Genesis, Heaven and Hell, and even the smaller ones. Spiritism in its simplest expression. What is Spiritism? Those are just Allan Kardec. How much time, energy, and work, not just from him, but from all the mediums he worked with, all the people that shared the messages there and back again. But not only that, all the spirits. All those people we see. We look, how many times we read through the book and we see the Spirit of Truth, Flammarion, St. Louis, St. Augustine, all these wonderful spirits have come in to share those words of wisdom to us. So you think about it. All these people, spirits, people, and this is 160 years ago. But did it really start 160 years ago? Because we can really take it back Old Testament. We can go all the way back, Genesis, the Torah, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. We can sit there and look and see all the things that God did for human beings, for us, for you. It goes from everything that was going on here. False alarm, huh?
It will come back.
But when you start going through and looking at this, go through reading through Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, not so much Numbers, but Numbers is still part of it, so you got to read it. And realize how much of that is there for your benefit. Now, I have up here on the display just the 10 Commandments. But even those 10 Commandments, how much of these things are focusing on you? Actually, all of them. They're sitting there saying, it's like, hey, don't put something above God. The only thing that should be between, the only thing that should, and then don't put anything above yourself but God. No idols. Don't let your focus take away from God and the grandeur of His creation. Don't misuse the Lord's name in vain. It's like, don't swear, don't curse. Why? Because when you say those things, are you being a better person for doing it or a worse person? Is it for your benefit? No. It's your benefit not to use His name, to keep it holy, to take the day of rest. One of the few things we keep forgetting about. When it's the day of rest, it's the day of rest. When you read through the story, all the food prep was taken the day before. Manna from heaven came double the day before Sabbath, and it wouldn't spoil the next day. So they had food that would last them for the whole day of Sabbath. So they had nothing to do but rest and enjoy each other's company. No cooking, no yard work, no nothing. It's time to be with friends and family and recharge. Mother and father, again, showing the value of family. How that family is good for you, not just them. Yes, calling your mom and dad and saying, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Everything else, I miss you, I love you. They love that too. But it also shows your character. It shows who you are, your values, your principles, your strength. And then, of course, shall not murder, adultery, steal, false testimony, and covet. And that was usually the long one, to covet your neighbor's oxen and all that stuff, maidservant and all that. And it's wonderful to hear those things because it's like it's written down. Why? Because if you murder someone, it doesn't benefit them. It definitely doesn't benefit yourself. You think it might. In our materialistic thoughts, we do. But then later on, as we read through the doctrine, we find out that's not good. It comes back and bites you big time. How many books from Andre Louise and Heaven and Hell do we read about people that were the victims? Even the movie from about Divaldo Franco that was out in January. Even though Divaldo didn't commit murder in this life, the spirit that was taunting him through most of his life was a victim of an enforced suicide. So it was essentially a murder. And it came back to bite him in this life, 600 years later. But only because he grew, that he chose to live by that he shall not murder anymore and embrace that. He doesn't murder, he loves. And from that, we sat there and see that he was able to make amends for a mistake that happened 600 years ago. I also like to sit there and think when we get thinking about this with Jesus, Jesus always makes two commandments. That all the law and the prophets are based upon two commandments. Love your God, the Father, with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. The golden rule. Usually you can break those up into two tablets. The second half, the right side, shall not murder and all that stuff, that's the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. And then the first half on there, love God, your Father, with all your heart, mind, soul. Because you're loving God, your Father, keeping his commandments with the thing else, like you're honoring him. So you're taking those 2 tablets and breaking them down into the 2 main commandments that Jesus boiled down. But when he boiled them down, he also made them grander. Because now it doesn't sit there and says, you shall not cut off your neighbor in traffic. You shall not steal your neighbor's job. Those aren't in there. Maybe they could be with the covet. But again, that's why Jesus made his laws. He made it simple. Again, who's it benefiting? Benefiting us. It's telling us how to live, how we should behave. 5,000 years ago, the best path forward for not just one person individually. Because now you're sitting there saying, who's the you? Is it you, Brian, you, Shauna, you? Or is it starting to be bigger yous? You, seeds of light. You, Florida. You, United States. You, humanity. You, earth. You, all of creation. Who is the you? And realizing that you matter at all those different levels. You matter as a son, a daughter, brother, sister, mother, father, child. You matter in all those capacities. You matter as a boss. You matter as an employee. You matter at so many different levels. Moving on to Jesus. I went through and listed all the Beatitudes. I think I said that right. Where he was sitting there, says, blessed are the afflicted, blessed are the poor in spirit, those who mourn, the meek. So even though we have sections these in the gospel according to spirits, not all of them are there. But in the gospel, they do talk about most of these. Like those who hunger and thirst for righteousness isn't one of them. But you see the other ones. And again, who's being blessed? You. You're the one being blessed. You may fit one, you may fit some, you may fit them all. But as you see that as you apply those to yourself and realize the meaning behind it, especially as you read through the doctrinal teachings on these things, how they come to you and to your spirit. And realize that these things, that you're blessed when you're in these conditions. Why? Because you see the best path forward. You get rid of the stuff. When you're afflicted, when you're sick, when you're lying in the hospital, are you worried about paying bills? Are you worried about, I have to report I have to get turned in next week? No. What are you worried about? You. Getting better. And having loved ones and families be there with you. When all these centers in the area, they go to the nursing homes for their carnival of love. They go and share and bring joy in life. Is it for their benefit? Maybe. They're bringing joy to others. And as they bring those joy to others, they themselves receive the joy and receive it back in kind. So you start looking at how these things bring the goodness in people and bringing out a better way, a better path forward, and how we can use that to improve ourselves, improve our neighbors, community, nation, the world, to be a better place. Because if we can see the best path forward on an individual level, we can start doing it on a grander level. We're here at Spirit Center. That's one of those things we're doing. We're taking our individual best paths forward. That's going to be becoming a tongue twister for me. And merging them together, sharing our experiences with those of others, how we interpret these different passages, so that we are improving not only our own, yours as well. And then as we go and share and mingle amongst with other centers, like with the Federation conference coming up in early April, I believe it's April 5th and 6th. 4th and 5th. It's Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, let me check.
So that is an event to bring more people together and time to share.
5th and 6th.
5th and 6th, okay. So, and it's one of the few benefits I've been liking with me bouncing between all these different centers, interacting with them, seeing how they do it, seeing how they're doing, getting ideas, learning how they are, and sharing. I made the joke here a couple of weeks ago where I showed the spine of my spirits book, and it's got 4 different bookmarks in it. Mm-hmm. One for here, one for Plenitude in Orlando, one for Love and Light, New Jersey, and the other one for Love and Wisdom up in St. Pete. So they're all in the spirits book, but they're in 4 different places, and it's been amazing. One day I was going up to St. Pete. So their center on Sunday starts at 10 a.m. But Love and Light, New Jersey, starts at 9:30. So I'll log in remote, and I'll be listening part of their conversations. I'm driving up there, and I would hear the conversation. Now they're in the early part of the book. Love and Wisdom is a little bit further on, but it's amazing. I'll hear a conversation about question 100 that applies to question 490 that I'm doing with the other group. So they actually meet over. When I was preparing this for Peace and Knowledge in Orlando, I was listening through the lectures for the people before that. And one of them, Peter Roman, brought up a wonderful line in his lecture, because I was sitting there saying, okay, am I matching up with them? And one of the ones that he sat there and says is, and it ties directly into this: God believes in you. Why don't you? And that struck me, because I'm sitting there thinking and that's true, because how many times do we hear that? We see that. I have to give Joanna D'Angelo some credit. I've had to come around a little bit on her. I have to, even though she's hard to read, she means well, and she does it out of a sense of love. I just didn't understand her sense of love until that passage and watching the Devolta movie, and really showing just how much she truly loves. So I might reflect. I might think that she's like a spiritual drill sergeant, because she's tough, she's firm but fair, but she means well. And just like those drill sergeants, they make better soldiers. She made better people. As we move on into, since I've already brought up the Spirits book, kind of stole my own thunder a little bit, part 3 of the Spirits book, all the different moral laws that are in there. Now, even though parts 1, 2, and 4 have great material, this section really focuses, again, on you. Even though it says all humanity and things like this, these concepts, these laws, again, just like the 10 Commandments, are for your benefit, to help you understand the laws that God put in place that we maybe didn't understand 2,000 years ago, 150 years ago. Hopefully now that we understand better now. So that we can sit there and say, how can we do better? How can we learn? How can we use these laws for good, for our betterment? Law of destruction, kind of a scary one to think about. But when you sit there and boil it down and sit there and sense, like, when you see something that's bad, when you see something that doesn't work, do you keep it? Do you maintain it? Sometimes you try, but eventually it comes to the point and says, no, it's time to tear this down and build something better. I'm a big aficionado of SpaceX and aerospace, planes, rockets, and everything else. And I just learned that they're going to do Flight 8 for Starship on Friday. And I'm sitting here thinking about it. It's like, okay, we're on Flight 8. How much a Starship, a rocket, has changed in 8 iterations. Different boosters, different ships, everything's changed. No two are alike. They're all unique. Some went up and succeeded. Some, like the last one, didn't. Made a pretty fireworks display. Even though it was destroyed, it had some beauty to it. But again, it was useful. It mattered. Even when you stumble and fall, even when you have an error, and we're talking moral errors, but you can also apply it to physical ones and everything else. You get better from it. You learn from it. There's children that can learn from you telling them hot pot is hot, don't touch. And there's children that only learn by touching hot pots and going ow. For me, it was light sockets. I was fascinated with electricity until I got a zap. Don't mess with the electricity anymore. I learned. It made me better. But again, you sit there and see illustrations now. I guess this. I've gone outside. I've used the Bible because we start with the Old Testament. We start with the New Testament. Now we're into the third wave of Spiritism. You know how when you read through, they were saying like Moses is the first, and then you had Jesus, and now you got Spiritism as the third wave. And you're seeing how we keep improving. How this is different than the 10 Commandments, but it still builds upon it. This is different than Jesus's ministry of love and his supreme example, and how we're taking it and saying, hey, take it and apply it. You can understand these things better now. You can understand these things different. When you think back at how much humanity has changed in 2,000 years, from the time of the Roman era to what we learned and know how to do today. Romans didn't know how to fly. Romans didn't have computers. Romans didn't have currency like we have today. It was a coin, and the coin had its value. You couldn't put, there was no banks. There was no checks. If your money was stolen, that was it. You lost your money. And you had to do something for it to get it back. You had to work harder, whatever. There's no credit cards. But yet, as we've built those over time, we've used those for good, for bad. There's moral lessons in all of it. Do we not see we have a moral credit card? We kind of roll up a little bit of a debt when we do something naughty. Carnival's coming up. That debit card's going to get used a lot. And then eventually we're going to start paying off the balance on Ash Wednesday. And we're going to say we're going to be good. I was we were just reading I was with Plenitude, we were doing one of the gospel ones, and they were talking about that when So when you have if you have one hand and it causes you to sin, cut it off. And so it's like, well, this weekend's just made right for that parable. But let's go beyond Allan Kardec. We're 160 years past, especially like I said, this year, celebrating 160 years of heaven and hell. Look at who has come to help us. Emmanuel, Andre Luis, Joanna de Angelis, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, and so many more. I guess these are just the authors that just wrote their own books. But again, who is the point? Who are these people? These spirits have other things to do. They have better things to do. But they sat there and says, we need to help you. You, the grand you, has to be lifted up, be inspired. More teachings, harder teachings. So you step up and learn more. Because when you sit there and you think about, look at all what these spirits do, the time, the energy, and not just the authors, Francisco, Chico Xavier, Divaldo Franco, how many hours of writing went into it. The hours that went into Allan Kardec creating the codification, the 12 years that all went into creating the codification, that solid work. The Gospels, Paul's epistles, his journey. The fact that all but one of the disciples came to a bad end, that they suffered painfully, but for whose benefit? You. Moses with the Israelites, 40 years in the desert. It wasn't for their benefit, it was for their children's benefit. But then it was all recorded, which made it even greater. Because it stopped being about them, started being about you. So when you go back and you start thinking about these things and realize when you're sitting there, you're open up. Like here, we read one passage from Living Spring, Chico Xavier from the Spirit of Emmanuel. And as you said, it ties into today's topic. How much in here can you pull from this? I know I'm reading through this. This is kind of like I started with Happy Life and I was doing one a day. This one I do every other day because it's 2-sided pages. So every other day I try to read one of these. And I'll usually have my highlighter and I'll highlight things that are relevant to me. Sometimes I highlight, sometimes I don't. Because I do the things that I think matter to me. But again, I'm reading this and realizing what Emmanuel did. When you read through 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, and even renunciation, with all the efforts that he put into it, how he tried to make your life better. Because he explained all this pain and suffering he went through his life. Just like Jesus did. We all see everything that Jesus went through. The pains, the sufferings, trials, torments, the temptations. And he did it as an example for us to follow. He didn't need to do it, but he showed us how. And for his benefit, your benefit, and mine. So when we start reading through these things, and I know we do our weekly study of the Spirit's book here every Tuesday, we're sitting here reading through. But do we ever take a chance to moment and reflect everything that went into that book? I know for some of us aficionados, I would say, people that are studying, give the Spiritist reviews that are like the volumes of books, one for every year, with a lot of the condensed readings, and realizing that all those volumes condensed down to those 5 books. All that work, all that effort. Again, is it for their benefit? Not really. Do they get paid for it? No. You did it for your benefit. We're up here everyone that speaks in here, it's a volunteer. Give freely what was freely given. Why? So that way you know it's for your benefit and not for my benefit to fill my pocket full of money. And to take away the efforts and work of others. But I may have just read the words. I read their work and say, oh, that's a good idea. I'll use it and borrow it. No. It's for your benefit. It's to make sure that you matter. These words are not tainted by moral greed or anything like this. So this is the clearest picture possible for your benefits, to remove as much doubt as possible, to make it easiest for you to understand. Unless you're like Joanna, in which case you step up and you learn. And you learn to be at her level, and what she encourages us to do. I don't know if anyone's ever gone back and read some like old, like if you read well, for English speakers, if you read old English texts, or even how this was written back in the 1800s, the words that was used, the vocabulary, was much grander than it is today. We've kind of withdrawn in our intellectual abilities. That's where like Joanna says, like, no, you used to do better. Step up. So she loves us, and she's showing us that. She's also encouraging us to do better. Just like Jesus tells us to take up your cross and follow him. Do better. Go and sin no more. It's not what they used to say. Can you do that though? We don't have to say yes to everything. We can do some things. But that's why we're here. We're not perfect beings. We're still works in progress. So let's build ourselves up. Remember that everything you do matters. Part of the reason why I wore this shirt, because it does say you matter on it.
Do you have anything on the back?
It does.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it says everything is going to be okay on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So it's for mental health awareness.
I have a similar one.
Mm-hmm. So, and that's one of the reasons why I picked this topic. Because how many times have I felt there and I felt down and sad, things were not going my way, stress is mounting, all kinds of different things. But then I have to sit there and reflect back. Again, I go to my bookcase with all the books, and then that's when I start seeing all these things. It's like, you matter. Why put that effort in? Except to better people. So, John, I know you are lost in thought.
I keep staring at that picture, and
This one on the right?
yeah, because it's like the middle person, just noticed, that he's not doing the same. And then, nowadays it's not just with technology, but with what you were talking, we got so lost, like in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They're really like what is essential, not always we are. You know, so I keep looking at the guy reading, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spend more
It's
time.
different.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's like, and it's one of those things where it's like he matters. This one person, he matters enough that he broke away the mold. He's not a minion. He's not trapped. But the other funny part is that ties right into this. Like you said, it's the one that's looking away. Who's to say that that person will put away the phone, pick up the book, and become like the other person? He will get better from the example of the one going down the stairs. So just by looking at that picture, you can start to see the threats. You can see the wonders and miracles that God has in our life every day, and the angels, spirits, mentors, how they're in our lives all the ways. So how many of them are wishing for us to do better? Yes, we got our few shares that said, like, no, you hurt me in the past. You need to do your time. I'm not done with you yet. We got a lot of those, but then there's more that step up and say, keep going. You're doing better. Again, going back to the DeFalco movie, where he sits there and looks, when all of a sudden he just sees a random baby dropped off in front of his mansion of the way, and he picks it up and takes it in, cares for it, and says, I will make this one my own, just like all the others. This will be my child. He takes it in, puts it down, and then all of a sudden his obsessor spirit says, that's my mom. I said, I know. I love her. I will love her, and I will love you too, the same way. I'm different now. I'm better. I know I matter, and he just told that little baby, that spirit's mother, she matters, and he told that obsessing spirit, you matter. He even sits there and says, like, I'm sorry. I know I did wrong to you in the past. He couldn't make it up for it at that time, but he did make it up in the future. Joanna didn't tell him that. He found that out on his own. She works like that, so I noticed. She lets you figure things out first, and then she says, like, now you're ready. And it's kind of like, I sit there thinking, like, I keep her thinking, me, military, drill sergeants and all that other stuff, but think about it in college. Now you're ready to take on the world. You got your degree. You go through, you take your exam and everything else. They don't tell you what's on the exam. You're supposed to study for it. You go through, your sweat pouring down, everything else. You're like, oh, Lord. You're cramming and everything else, making sure you get the last bit of information squeezed in there just to hold on to it to pass the test. And then when you see that passing grade, you're like, yes, thank you. Because you matter. I know we got 15 minutes left, and I'm not entirely. Does this thing has a YouTube link, and it won't play it, will it? Because of the nature of StreamYard.
We could try and see if that goes through,
Okay.
but I think the sound may not come out.
So I'm gonna not come out. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes like we would have to download the video and then.
Okay, since it's YouTube, it won't work.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm not gonna go there, that one. But when I did this one before, I brought up a cult reference to Blues Brothers. I'm old enough to have watched it. Younger kids, not so much. It's a bit of an older movie. But I love that. If you watch that movie, what's the saying? They always talk about it. You're on a mission from God.
What is the name of the movie?
Blues Brothers, the original one.
I never even heard about it.
Interesting movie because they're a blues band, the Blues Brothers. They're not so good. They do a lot of bad things. They're naughty. but they get an opportunity to do a show for charity. All of a sudden, they turn their act around. They get the band back together to go to Chicago to help. I believe it's an orphanage or something like that. That's in the movie, that they go out and help, and they do raise charity. All the while, they're being chased by cops. They're breaking the law. They're doing all kinds of other things, naughty things. But in the end, they always sit there and say, "We're on a mission for God." And somehow they always make it there. So it ends with them putting on their show and saving. So I sat there and looked at that, and I was like, you know what? I stumble, I fall down, I do things I'm not supposed to do. But in the end, I'm hoping I'm doing right. When the ending credits of my life start rolling, hopefully I did more good than bad. Because that's what I've been doing here. I'm learning to be better because I know I matter. And I'm up here giving this lecture today because I know you matter. So let's take this opportunity to figure out and understand that we all do matter together.
The small steps matter.
Every step matters.
Yeah. Because sometimes we think like, oh, a big step, but no, we only are going to achieve that by giving, the first baby steps.
Yes. Every journey begins with the first step, as the saying goes. You take a step, you do it. How do you start a habit? You force yourself. You have to force yourself to do it the first few times. And as you keep doing it more and more, it starts to become repetitive. And as you become repetitive, it becomes natural. Now you're in a habit. And later on, it becomes a lifestyle. And that's one of the things I always love to do with this, especially with the time that's coming up with Lent. I'm going to go a little off topic here, but within the Christian faith, we have Ash Wednesday, and we have the 40 days of Lent. And of course, we got Carnival and Mardi Gras right before it. But why is it there? It's there because says, okay, we're sinful beings. Let's get all our sins out because we need to be good for 40 days. And then we can go back to being sinful again. Let's rephrase that. Because every time I talk to people like this, I give up meat for Lent. I give up chocolate for Lent. I give up such and such. Give up a moral vice. Take 40 days, especially in a Christian community, since everyone has supposedly giving up something for Lent. Doesn't matter what it is. Say, give up alcohol, give up smoking, give up a vice, give up gambling. I don't know, that's a tough one. Give up video games, real tough. Give up
Instagram.
Give up Instagram. There you go.
Let's delete it.
But delete it for 40 days. Go without. And see, do you miss it? Do you not need it anymore? Take this opportunity. Take these 40 days. Because it takes 40 days to build a new habit anyway. Use it to improve. Use it to grow. Make it so that you matter. Don't just sit there and say, got to do this. No, use it for your benefit. Take this time and make sure that you grow with it. Beginning of the year, New Year's, we all did our resolutions. Bring those resolutions back. The ones that you may have fallen off. I didn't follow those resolutions. Bring them back up. See, say, let's try again. Let's put a little effort into it. And see, and take this opportunity now, because since you matter, and I matter, and you matter, we all matter, we can sit there and work together. And sit there and say, hey, the one I picked for Lent's real tough. And it's like, you can do it. You can do it. I don't know what it is. You can do it. We'll get through it together. I got my own I'm trying to give up. It's hard, it's rough. I'm jonesing for whatever my vice is or whatever it is I'm giving up. I really, really want it. Told a friend probably give up ice cream for 40 days because they have a very big sweet tooth. Try telling that to my dad because that's lost cause. But sitting here trying to tell him, it's like, hey, if you give something up, then you learn how to do without it. And when you give up something that's bad for you, you get stronger, you get better, you get healthier. In 40 days, enough to build a habit out of it. So I know it's not within the doctrinal lines of the Spiritist doctrine, doesn't talk about Lent or anything other things, but it does encourage us to be better. And if we can use something to help us, I think that would be encouraged. To sit there and help. Say, even though we don't do the Ash Wednesday, the rituals and all that other stuff, the traditions, doesn't mean that we can't do it for another purpose. Because what is the purpose of it? The ultimate goal of it is to be better, to purify ourselves. That isn't the doctrine. That isn't Spirit's doctrine, to get better. So let's give something up for ourselves to make ourselves better. Again, you matter, I matter, we all matter. God would not have put all this around us, have all this help come to us, if not to sit there and say, He loves us. Jesus loves us. The spirits love us. There's so many people that love us, that want the best for us. So pick yourself up. Keep going. You matter. So I don't know if is there anything, questions or anything else. We got 5 minutes left. Should I just close and end a little early with the closing prayer? All right. So for everyone here and online, let's all close our eyes. Dear Lord, wonderful Master, mentors of the house, and for all those present, both seen and unseen, watch over us now as we part company. Let the love you've shown us and share with us come into our hearts and minds. Let us take the value of everything we've done and bring that into our hearts and minds to help us show that we truly do matter, that we are truly loved, that we may go forth inspired and strengthened to push forward through whatever difficulties we may be going through, and realizing that we have people, spirits, all manner of things around us to help us to succeed and push through. Give us the strength to watch over and inspire not only ourselves, but our friends, our families, and loved ones. And let us all help each other on the path to be better people. Amen.